Song Guram's boyfriend, Sshe, was a laboratory researcher. Back then, he always claimed he was too busy with projects to have time for a relationship. So, he casually outsourced the task of keeping his girlfriend company to someone else. Sshe initially helped out without much thought, replying on his behalf. But over time, those late-night conversations became routine. He listened, shared, and quietly absorbed Guram's loneliness and stress. He spoke about liking winter nights, about life's little details, and the one who sincerely replied to her wasn't her official boyfriend, but Sshe. At first, he told himself he was only helping. But between the lines, sincerity grew bit by bit. Still, he knew this love had no rightful place. That changed the day Song Guram decided to fly to Boston to surprise her boyfriend. Panicked, Sshe rushed to the lab, desperate to stop the truth from coming out. But the moment the door opened, a deafening explosion erupted. Sshe died instantly, and Sshe was left gravely injured, falling into a coma. From afar, Song Guram saw the flames. By the time she reached the school gate, all she received was a cold notification. He was dead. Once again, she lost someone dear, sealing her heart shut. What she didn't know was that the one who truly loved her was still alive. In the final second before losing consciousness, Sshe's mind was filled with her voice, like a thin thread pulling him back from the edge of death. He eventually woke up, but lost part of his memory. After returning home for 3 months of treatment with no improvement, one person kept resurfacing in his mind. He remembered hearing someone call out to him over and over, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't recall who it was. Yet he kept drawing the face from his memory, trying to confirm whether that person really existed or was just his imagination. The uncertainty tormented him. Then one day he unexpectedly saw Song Guram, the very person from his memories. His heartbeat faltered instantly. He hurried after her, as if she held the key to his life. Just as he tried to approach, New Year fireworks suddenly lit up the sky. After returning home for work, Sshe wandered aimlessly, embracing his solitude. Meanwhile, Song Guram was working at a cafe, designing clothes. The elderly owner recommended she take up a job there. By coincidence, both of them ended up visiting the same cafe and later the same art gallery. They both stopped in front of a painting themed around winter. Sshe couldn't believe it. The person beside him was Song Guram. But by the time he tried to confirm, she had already left. That familiar voice echoed again in his mind. Seeing her walk away, he chased after her. At the bus stop, he finally confirmed it was really her and followed her instinctively. When he saw she was in danger, he called out without thinking. After confirming she was safe, he quietly turned and left. He thought he had escaped for 7 years, but fate still brought them back together. Song Guram, recalling the incident from earlier that day, wondered who had called out to her. Meanwhile, in a meeting room, an animated character designed by Sshe looked strikingly similar to her. As he stepped out, a pen rolled to his feet. When he picked it up, he saw Song Guram's name engraved on it. It was one he had personally customized 7 years ago. His fingertips trembled, and his heartbeat pounded uncontrollably in his ears. At the end of the corridor, footsteps echoed as someone approached, tapping rhythmically against the floor, each sound syncing with his racing heart. She seemed to be saying something, but he couldn't hear her. The explosion had taken the hearing in one of his ears. He hid in the restroom, splashing cold water on his face again and again, yet it couldn't wash away the chaos inside him. What made it even crueler was that he was the chief designer of a partner company, meaning he had to work closely with him. Back in the meeting room, people commented that the animated character he designed looked a lot like Song Guram. Sshe grew so nervous that he spilled his coffee all over himself. Song Guram brought him a change of clothes, and that was when she noticed the tattoo on his body, "Don't forget." It was something he had engraved after surviving the brink of death, a reminder to never leave behind regrets again. But the greatest regret of all still kept him from speaking. That night at the hotel, Sshe thought about running away again. Yet when he looked at the character he had designed, he hesitated. At the same time, Song Guram was being secretly followed and photographed. The next day, She saw news about the incident and realized that the person who had called out to her that day was wearing clothes very similar to Sun Woo-jae's. She even found the same art exhibition ticket in his belongings, which made her curious. How did he know her name? Another day passed, and Song Gu-ram received a package containing photos of herself. Suspicion began to grow, and she started to doubt Sun Woo-jae. That night, they both arrived at the cafe one after the other. Sun Woo-jae returned to his hotel, only to turn back again. Song Gu-ram stopped him and directly asked if he had been the one who called her at the museum entrance, and how he even knew her. Sun Woo-jae recalled everything from 7 years ago, his eyes reddening, but he only said that he hadn't been hiding anything. Song Gu-ram pressed further, questioning why he had been following her and insisting that he couldn't possibly know her. She became convinced he had been stalking her to gather information. In response, Sun Woo-jae showed her the public profile from her company's website and apologized. Still, Song Gu-ram couldn't stop wondering, who had taken those photos? Suddenly, Sun Woo-jae called out to her again. This time, he had spotted the real stalker. The two of them chased after the person together, but the stalker tried to attack Song Gu-ram. Instinctively, Sun Woo-jae stepped in front of her to protect her. At the police station, he calmly and professionally analyzed the situation, even identifying details about the recorded footage just from subtle cues. He seemed every bit like someone with a scientific background. However, Song Gu-ram didn't notice that his injury had worsened. When she found out, she insisted he go to the hospital to treat his wounds. Feeling indebted, she wanted to repay him, and her younger sister suggested inviting him to a meal. Knowing her sister wasn't the type to do that, she changed the suggestion to at least giving him a piece of clothing as thanks. The next day, just as Sun Woo-jae received the clothes, it suddenly started raining. Song Woo-jae didn't really want to get involved with her, but she still brought an umbrella downstairs. When he opened it, he realized it was broken and awkwardly tried to close it. At that moment, she ran into a former colleague and made an excuse to leave, following Sun Woo-jae back to his room to get another umbrella. Unfortunately, the only umbrella had already been taken by the colleague. When the colleague returned and invited Song Gu-ram to eat together, Sun Woo-jae quickly sent him away. Meanwhile, the elderly cafe owner fell ill, so Song Gu-ram took his dog home to care for it. After the owner recovered, she returned to the cafe and was surprised to realize that Sun Woo-jae was the other uncle the owner had mentioned before. The next day, her grandmother accidentally saw Sun Woo-jae's name in Song Gu-ram's information. She used it as an excuse to invite both of them to dinner, but once they arrived at the restaurant, she quickly found a reason to leave them alone together. While they were eating, a harsh noise suddenly rang out. Sun Woo-jae's face turned pale. The aftereffects of the explosion made him extremely sensitive to chaotic sounds. Overwhelmed, he hurriedly left the restaurant, leaving behind the item he had been carrying. At last, he confessed the truth. He had lost the hearing in one ear. Yet his tone was strangely calm, as if he were talking about someone else's injury. He said he was lucky, first, that he had survived, second, that he was able to see her again. But Song Gu-ram didn't understand the deeper meaning behind his words. The next day, when she realized that the item he left behind was missing, she panicked. She rushed back to the restaurant to ask about it, but no one knew where it had gone. What she never expected was that the item had once been something Kang Hae-chai had casually asked her to choose. She had carefully selected it and even had her name engraved on it. After Kang Hae-chai's death, Song Gu-ram had once lost the will to live. It was that very item that helped her hold on to life again. Back at the cafe, after listening to the old owner's comforting words, Song Woo-jae finally gathered his courage and ran out. I think, in a situation like this, two people can slowly build something between them, owing each other small kindnesses, sharing simple, interesting moments together, at least until the next spring arrives. But have you ever been so afraid of losing something that you chose to reject every possible beginning? Song Gu-ram was exactly like that. No matter how outstanding she was, she bound herself tightly, refusing to let anyone get close. So when Sun Woo-jae finally gathered the courage to confess, her response was firm and left no room for hope. Sun Woo-jae had been abandoned by his mother as a child. His father even took away the one thing he loved most, painting, throwing away the drawings his mother left behind. He secretly enrolled in an art class, but when his father found out, he forced him to go abroad. By chance, he ran into his father again at a technology seminar. When his father came to his room, he discovered his sketchbook and realized he still hadn't let go of painting. After his father left, Sun Woo-jae tore up all his drawings and shut himself away in a corner. He had always tried to hold on, but now he couldn't find a reason to keep going. He decided to end everything. At that very moment, a message from Song Gu-ram arrived, like a beam of light piercing through his darkest night. Song Gu-ram told him that she was his savior. Using the pen Song Gu-ram had given him, Sun Woo-jae created a design that won an award in a company competition. That small encouragement became his reason to live again. He listened carefully to the music Song Gu-ram shared, even trying foods she mentioned just to feel closer to her world. Little by little, that once tiny world began to grow. But now, the once bright and cheerful Song Gu-ram had changed. She cried often, hid herself away, and no longer shone the way she used to. Sun Woo-jae wanted to become her support, to make her smile again. When he finally found the courage to ask if he could openly be good to her, the answer he received was rejection. No. Why? I just want back what I gave you. Honestly, I never planned to get close to anyone. Sun Woo-jae took a step back. Song Gu-ram still refused, keeping distance firmly. In the end, Sun Woo-jae simply nodded. I understand. I really do. Then I'll leave. He didn't realize that those words would make Song Gu-ram avoid him for days. After returning home, Song Gu-ram locked herself in a small room, isolating herself completely. Meanwhile, Sun Woo-jae went back to the cafe and carefully replanted the broken flower he had picked up earlier. The next day, Song Gu-ram's younger sister mentioned she would be getting married soon. Song Gu-ram reacted calmly, though something inside her felt heavier. At work, when she saw Sun Woo-jae, she quickly avoided him. Sun Woo-jae noticed that Song Gu-ram disappeared every day at noon, so he followed her. Song Gu-ram hid in another cafe, but no matter how far she went, she still felt his presence nearby. There was nowhere left to hide. She even suggested withdrawing from their collaboration project, but her grandmother refused. Meanwhile, Sun Woo-jae kept going back to the cafe, making excuses just to see her, but never succeeded. One day, while Song Gu-ram went out to eat a salad, she ran into Sun Woo-jae again. Sun Woo-jae sat beside her and greeted her, but Song Gu-ram panicked and ran away. Later, at the park, she saw Sun Woo-jae playing with children. Remembering his words about wanting to get closer to her, she only wanted to escape. A stray ball suddenly hit her, and she hurried away again. She ended up sitting alone at a bus stop until late evening. When she finally decided to go home, she saw Sun Woo-jae again. She turned around, only to realize he had been right behind her all along. Sun Woo-jae had prepared medicine for her. Song Gu-ram tried to leave, but suddenly a motorcycle sped toward them. Without hesitation, Sun Woo-jae rushed forward and pulled her to safety. He wanted to take her to the hospital, but she refused again. Even then, Sun Woo-jae chased after her, wanting to speak, again and again, I just want, but the words never fully came out. Song Gu-ram's hand had been injured and needed proper treatment and bandaging. Sun Woo-jae came out early to wait for her. Holding the menu, he kept thinking about the way Song Gu-ram had run away, not knowing what he could possibly do to make her happy. When Song Gu-ram finally appeared, Sun Woo-jae apologized. He told her that she could keep coming to the cafe as usual, and that he himself would move out. That way, Song Gu-ram could walk around freely without worrying about running into him. He promised he wouldn't create any more complications or make her uncomfortable. Back at the cafe, Sun Woo-jae noticed that the flower he had replanted had already withered. The old owner gently told him that a flower needs time to adjust to sudden changes. He fell into thought. The next day, he performed a small magic trick in front of Song Gu-ram's colleagues, quickly becoming friendly with everyone, except Song Gu-ram. Their grandmother deliberately arranged for the two of them to go take photos at a palace. Sun Woo-jae changed into a king's costume, drawing attention from everyone who wanted pictures with him. Realizing that this only made Song Gu-ram feel left out, he decided to change back. While Song Gu-ram was talking, she suddenly heard her mother's voice calling her name, When Sun Woo-jae returned, he realized Song Gu-ram had disappeared. He searched everywhere in the palace and eventually found her halfway up the hill. Song Gu-ram shared what she had just experienced. She had seen a girl about her age and heard her mother's voice calling her. It brought back memories of the car accident. Hearing that name again, she said she felt strangely lucky, even though she knew it sounded odd. Sun Woo-jae, hearing this, was reminded of the voice he himself had once heard. As their eyes met, Song Gu-ram finally spoke, her voice soft. I feel at ease now. Then she apologized for her coldness and distance over the past few days. She admitted it was all her own defense mechanism, never something Sun Woo-jae had done wrong. She wanted to change, but didn't know how. Getting close to someone was something terrifying to her. She believed that experiencing the loss of someone you love once in a lifetime was already enough, but she had gone through it twice. That was why she kept herself tightly bound, afraid to open up. Together, they went back to look for her lost bag. On the way, they ran into the children again, and Sun Woo-jae kicked a ball around with them as before. After Song Gu-ram left, Sun Woo-jae caught up to her and spoke seriously. He admitted that while he did want to connect with people, it was different with Song Gu-ram. At first, he had just been curious. Why was Song Gu-ram always standing alone in front of that winter-themed painting? But after working together, he kept observing her and realized something. Song Gu-ram must believe she's someone walking alone on a long, cold road. Though it might sound presumptuous, Sun Woo-jae said he wanted to tell her something, just like someone had once told him. There was a time when he had been a person who wished each day would be his last. Even after opening his eyes again, he lived without expectations, without emotion or color. He thought it wouldn't matter if he died. But then, someone told him he was their savior. That small moment made him stop, and his life began to change. That person made him happy. For the first time, he started looking forward to tomorrow. He began searching for reasons to keep going. Because of that person, he rediscovered his passion and learned how to love again. So now, speaking as someone who had been there before, he wanted to tell Song Gu-ram this. He, too, had once been trapped alone in a long winter. Looking at her, he remembered the words he had once said. He chased after her again, repeating to himself, "It's not too late, it's still not too late. It's still possible to let each other get closer. Why don't you like her? I do like her." If love had a single keyword, it would be closeness. But true closeness isn't about holding hands or confessing feelings. It's about not turning away when the other person is at their most vulnerable. Everything began with that blinding beam of headlights. In that moment, Sun Woo-jae's world seemed to pause, as if a window had suddenly opened. And for Song Gu-ram, something deep inside her heart began to shift. Sun Woo-jae went to see a psychologist, but the doctor gave him only an ambiguous answer. If he truly wanted to understand the other half of his memories, then Song Gu-ram might be the key. The doctor suggested that if there were still parts of his memory he hadn't uncovered, then perhaps their connection ran deeper than he realized. He had simply forgotten. That thought planted itself quietly in his heart. When the probation period officially began, Song Gu-ram gathered her courage and stepped into the cafe again. The old owner smiled warmly, his wrinkled face full of relief. As for Sun Woo-jae, he had only one thought in mind. As long as Song Gu-ram could be happy, he was willing to do anything, even if it meant standing far behind her, silently. But happiness was never simple for him. Those around him began to notice the change in Sun Woo-jae, not in his appearance, but in his emotions. There was a little more warmth now, and also a little more vulnerability. The next day, Sun Woo-jae arrived in a taxi to pick Song Gu-ram up. As they left together, her grandmother watched their backs and finally believed what she had been told. There was indeed something different between them. Sun Woo-jae was excited like someone going on her first spring outing. He took out something precious to him and carefully handed it to Song Gu-ram for safekeeping, asking her to return it in 3 days when they would go back to Seoul together. In that moment, it felt as though he was cautiously reserving a place in the future. On the way back, they overheard people talking about a place near the riverside that was perfect for watching fireworks. Song Gu-ram's smile froze instantly. Memories surged like a tide. the fireworks from years ago, intertwined with the shadows of her parents. What had once been joyful now sank into something heavy and painful. Sensing this, Sun Woo-jae didn't press her for answers. Instead, he simply pulled her along and rode away. Sometimes, rather than comforting someone, the kindest thing is to help them escape, even if only for a moment. The next day, Song Gu-ram stared blankly at several colorful pastries. They felt like keys to the past, yet none of them could open any door. When her grandmother suddenly called and asked her to deliver clothes, she couldn't find a taxi, just as Sun Woo-jae appeared. She got into the car, but throughout the drive, Sun Woo-jae gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. The trauma from the accident still lingered, forcing him to drive very slowly. When Song Gu-ram urged him to go faster, they nearly got into another accident. Even while enduring his own discomfort, Sun Woo-jae was the first to comfort her. "I'm sorry it happened because of me. But I'm okay. I'm really okay." Despite saying that, it was clear he wasn't. After dropping her off, Sun Woo-jae called a car for Song Gu-ram and told her not to worry. Later, back at the cafe, the two of them apologized to each other. Song Gu-ram brought up the riverside again, saying it used to be filled with nothing but painful memories for her. She had thought it would always be that way, but yesterday she had actually smiled there. For the first time, she realized that even painful memories could slowly be replaced. She admitted that thanks to Sun Woo-jae, she had been able to calm down quickly. At least until the probation period ended, she wouldn't hide away in her shell anymore. On the day of their business trip, Song Gu-ram left a day early and even offered to drive. Suddenly, heavy rain began to pour, and the windshield wipers broke. Without hesitation, Sun Woo-jae stretched out his hand and acted as a manual wiper. Under Song Gu-ram's guidance, they finally managed to pull into a rest stop. There, Song Gu-ram noticed the scars on Sun Woo-jae's arm, but he quickly got out of the car, pretending nothing had happened. The engine had broken down and would take hours to fix, so they called his grandmother. With just one glance, the grandmother could tell, this child truly liked Song Gu-ram. When Song Gu-ram learned more about him, she finally began to understand. Like his mother, Sun Woo-jae had an extraordinary talent for painting, but he had also inherited his mother's loneliness. A childhood marked by abandonment had taught him to lock away his emotions. It wasn't that he was cold, he was simply afraid. Afraid to hope, afraid to get close. "Why don't you like me?" Song Gu-ram finally asked. Sun Woo-jae froze. There was confusion in his eyes, a hint of unwillingness, and a fragile trace of hope. But he didn't answer, because he knew that admitting his feelings meant losing his way back. It meant facing the past, his memories, and the truths he had buried. It also meant that if he got hurt again, he might never forgive himself. And yet, his eyes had already revealed everything. There was light in them. There was pain. There were countless nights where he had drawn Song Gu-ram's face, unable to suppress his feelings. Even after everything fate had done to him, there was still that stubborn desire to move closer. At that moment, it wasn't that he couldn't answer. He simply didn't dare to. And Song Gu-ram finally realized that the answer she had been waiting for had long been written in the way Sun Woo-jae looked at her. In those eyes, there was spring, there was snow, and there was a forever he didn't yet dare to speak aloud, waiting quietly beyond the end of those 3 months. They had agreed to meet on the day the 3-month trial period ended, but Sun Woo-jae never showed up. Song Gu-ram flipped through the photos she had taken over those 10 days. When she reached the very first one, she froze. It was his selfie. What she once thought was just a passing joke had somehow turned into a final prophecy. At the end of their business trip, Sun Woo-jae had taken her to see a rainbow and told her it was a sign of good luck. At first, Song Gu-ram didn't fully believe it, but she still carefully captured the moment. Sun Woo-jae had told her that from now on, when she looked at the sky, she should try to find rainbows instead of always staring at airplane trails. But when she looked at the last photo, she remembered Sun Woo-jae's words, that memories of the past might not be perfect. They could be distorted, even beautified. Song Gu-ram couldn't help but ask again why he couldn't like her. But instead of answering, Sun Woo-jae turned the question back on her. "Can you?" The air froze instantly. The sound of the windshield wipers brushed rhythmically across the glass, syncing with their heartbeats. Suddenly, Sung Woo-jae seemed to snap back to reality and hurriedly turned them off. Both of them tried to explain at the same time. He said it was just because his grandmother wanted to match them together, and he didn't want Song Gu-ram to feel uncomfortable, so he had said those things as a kind of practice. After that, neither of them dared to continue the conversation. On the road, the radio mentioned the first snowfall. Song Gu-ram reflexively turned it off. Noticing this, Sung Woo-jae suggested they stop for a while instead of leaving like that. It was then that Song Gu-ram revealed her deepest wound. Her parents had died on the day of the first snow. To her, the first snowfall was an ominous day. Sung Woo-jae tried to lighten the mood, saying that from now on, he would dislike the first snow too. When they spoke about voices from the past, he mentioned there was someone he longed to see again. Song Gu-ram sensed that he might have gone through something similar, but chose not to press further. At the guest house, while planning their schedule, Song Gu-ram recalled something her grandmother had said. Sung Woo-jae had been sent abroad by his father and had gone through something terrible there, yet he never spoke about his past. Watching him, the same question surfaced again. Why can't you like me? The next day, during a team activity, everyone lay on the grass, gazing at the sky as the scenery stretched endlessly before them. After finishing a call with her grandmother, Song Gu-ram ran into a colleague and, through casual conversation, learned that Sung Woo-jae's past before studying animation seemed almost erased, as if that part of his life no longer existed. Just then, Sung Woo-jae suddenly appeared and interrupted them. Later, while flipping through his sketches, Song Gu-ram asked how he had managed to draw again after losing the ability for a period of time. Sung Woo-jae explained that after regaining part of his memory, he rushed to the airport, bought the earliest flight, and flew to Florence. On his list of things he wanted to do, he wrote, painting. He paused before saying that he simply didn't want to live like a walking shell anymore, then quickly changed the subject. He added that no one knows when life might end, so instead of wasting time on regrets, it's better to live happily. Thinking about it, Song Gu-ram realized that this strange, trial period had indeed made her happier lately. Sung Woo-jae smiled and told her she was doing well, she should keep going like this. Even if one day he wasn't around anymore, he hoped Song Gu-ram would continue to live happily. While eating, Sung Woo-jae quietly picked out all the food Song Gu-ram disliked and moved them aside for her. Later, they went to the seaside, but Song Gu-ram still hadn't finalized her work ideas. Sung Woo-jae suggested visiting a sea cave, and she agreed, needing an escape. Suddenly, Song Gu-ram realized something. She had never told Sung Woo-jae that she disliked certain foods because they reminded her of strange, silvery, alien-like things. Yet that was something she had once said in a chat room 7 years ago, when Sung Woo-jae had been speaking to her under Kang Hae-chai's name. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but didn't know how. At the sea cave, she saw airplane trails in the sky. In the past, whenever she saw them, she would board a plane to go see Kang Hae-chai. Meanwhile, a flash of memory suddenly struck Sung Woo-jae, meeting Kang Hae-chai, shattered lab equipment, and blood. He felt dizzy. Song Gu-ram approached him in concern, but Sung Woo-jae forced a joke, pretending he was fine. Yet his mind kept circling one question: whose blood was it? Looking at her back, Song Woo-jae remembered something someone once said: if you don't want to be hurt by the past again, it's better not to stay by that person's side. He couldn't help but wonder, besides the explosion, what else had happened. After work ended, he realized he had forgotten his grandmother's belongings and ran back to retrieve them. Suddenly, it started to rain. With no choice, the two of them took shelter nearby. And then he noticed, Song Gu-ram's shoelace had come undone. He crouched down and helped tie her shoelaces. As Song Gu-ram looked at his side profile, fragments of everything she had learned came rushing back. The fact that Sung Woo-jae had lost hearing in one ear, the tattoo on his body, and his grandmother's words about the terrible things he had gone through. She couldn't help but wonder what exactly Sung Woo-jae had experienced abroad, and who it was that had once pulled him out of that long, cold winter. But Sung Woo-jae didn't talk about that past. He only said that he had started learning to paint at 6 years old, worked desperately hard, and was lucky enough to become a design director. He gently added that Song Guram herself had once said some things are better left unsaid, that he preferred to talk about the present and the future. The past was a card he couldn't play. Song Guram quickly apologized. That night, during a group dinner, Song Guram drank alcohol for the first time and even recorded it. Encouraged by those around her, the walls she had built around her heart began to loosen. When she suddenly noticed Sun Woo-jae had left alone, she chased after him. Outside, she brought up the pen again, the one she had been so attached to. She admitted she didn't know whether it was because she had used it for so many years, or because of the person who had given it to her. Maybe it was because that person had passed away that she couldn't let it go. She smiled faintly and said that in the past, she would have done anything to get that pen back. But now, she felt happy. It seemed like they had truly grown closer. She thanked Sun Woo-jae for insisting on getting to know her, for knocking on her closed heart again and again until she finally stopped hiding. Sun Woo-jae took something from her hand and shook it playfully, asking her to guess, odd or even. If she guessed correctly, he promised to tell her everything. Song Guram guessed right. Just as Song Guram was about to speak, she suddenly collapsed from being drunk. Song Woo-jae stayed outside her door for a long time. When he heard a noise, he pushed the door open, and memories flooded in like a tide. He saw the truth about Kang Hae-chai, the man who had once asked someone else to keep his girlfriend company. The same man had cheated. The reality was far uglier than he had imagined. At the same time, Song Guram woke up suddenly. Sensing the tension, Song Woo-jae made a joke and suggested they go for a walk. Holding the object again, Song Guram suddenly changed her mind about the game. She said she didn't need to know everything anymore. Even if Song Woo-jae revealed that card, it might not lead to anything good. She didn't want him to be forced into it because of her. Even without knowing everything, they were already close enough. Song Woo-jae smiled, then took out the things he had prepared: honey water, hangover medicine, drinks, even roasted eggs. Seeing this, Song Guram couldn't help but think that the person who had once cared for him must have treated him very well. She wondered if that person had been his lover, the one who had expanded his world, turning it from black and white into something full of color. He raised his hand, wanting to give her a playful high five. She didn't quite understand, but still followed along. When their work ended and it was time to part ways, they made a promise. 10 days later, on the final day of the trial period, they would meet again and eat pizza together. Before leaving, Song Woo-jae gave her a homework assignment, to take one photo every day of something that made her happy. He also showed her another rainbow before they parted, and everyone took a group photo together. Back home, Song Guram photographed the moon. When her grandmother asked about her day, she didn't say much. But when she received the rainbow photo Song Woo-jae had sent her, inspiration struck. She completed her design, and her grandmother was very satisfied. Soon after, she received confirmation that her revisions had been approved. She even updated her animation character with details inspired by those moments. She chose a restaurant in advance, looking forward to that promised day. Every day, she completed her homework. The old cafe owner told her that the person who gave her the camera must have wanted her to notice the small things in life, to discover beauty. And finally she understood. But on the day of their reunion, Song Woo-jae set out alone in his car. His phone suddenly vibrated. As he reached for it, he almost got into an accident. At the same time, Song Guram was about to leave when her grandmother called. She wanted her to take over the company. By the time Song Guram returned to the office, she realized she had missed Song Woo-jae's call. She tried calling back, but couldn't get through. When she went to the cafe, the old owner told her that Song Woo-jae had already left in a hurry. Song Guram packed away all the photos, all those memories, locking them inside her heart. It wasn't that she regretted meeting Song Woo-jae. She only regretted that it happened during a trial. Because somewhere along the way she had fallen for him, without realizing it. Finally, she admitted her feelings. She rushed to the airport to find him, but what she saw there stopped her in her tracks. I don't want to regret anything anymore. Can you help me? From now on, can I try again? Let's start today. But where? Until just moments ago, Sun Woo-jae had been holding everything in, holding back from explaining his past, holding back his feelings, convincing himself he shouldn't want this so much. Cdrama still went to the restaurant as they had promised. Suddenly, she heard a voice and thought it was just her imagination. Director Song. Her heart stopped. She turned around, and there he was, standing at the entrance, out of breath, as if he had run all the way there. Are you okay? This still hurts a little, but I'm okay. Seeing Cdrama frozen in place, Sshe thought she might be unhappy to see him. But in truth, Cdrama was so overwhelmed with joy she almost rushed forward to hug him. The words reached her lips, but she hesitated, remembering that wasn't how they usually greeted each other. He awkwardly tried to change the moment, even jokingly acting like he might do a flip instead. But before he could finish, Cdrama stepped forward and hugged him tightly. That day, she finally understood there were things more important than holding back. On his way back from work earlier, Sshe had almost gotten into a car accident. Just as he recovered, a call came in. There was a problem with the project, and he had to return abroad immediately. By the time he rushed to the airport, Cdrama had been called away to her grandmother's office and missed his call. With the plane about to take off, Sshe had no choice but to switch to flight mode. When Cdrama later found out that he had gone abroad, she also learned that the project had been suspended. The trial period had ended just like that, without warning. The next day, her grandmother officially announced that the project would be put on hold. Everyone in the company began discussing it. Some colleagues said that Sshe would surely come back once he resolved everything, that ending things so abruptly wasn't like him at all. Maybe he would even return with a surprise. People began imagining all sorts of possibilities. While reviewing materials, Cdrama suddenly saw her own design work and froze. A colleague reassured her, telling her not to worry, Sshe would come back. And if he contacted her, she should let everyone know. Just as those words were spoken, her phone rang. Her heart skipped, but it wasn't him. It was just a colleague with a new number. She turned her phone volume to the maximum, kept it with her even while washing up, and even checked the time difference between the two countries. But no message ever came. Without realizing it, she fell asleep at her desk. When she woke up, 10 days had already passed. She felt almost foolish. Looking at the photos of Sshe on her phone, she wasn't the only one waiting. The cafe owner, the others, they all looked toward the door every day, hoping to see that familiar figure walk in again. At home, tensions grew among the sisters. Arguments broke out over small misunderstandings. Even Cdrama found herself hearing that familiar voice again, only to turn around and realize it wasn't him. From that moment on, she stopped sitting in her usual spot and moved to the window instead. The others gathered there too, waiting. But he never came back. Eventually, Cdrama began to accept it, or at least pretend to. She changed her phone wallpaper, tried to act normal, and told herself everything was fine. But when she returned to the cafe and sat in her old seat again, the emptiness was undeniable. When the owner heard that the project had ended and that Sshe wouldn't return, the light in his eyes faded. And then, Sshe disappeared completely. He took leave, cut off all contact, and vanished. Meanwhile, Cdrama's grandmother went for a follow-up check at the hospital. She rushed off after receiving a call about a problem with the clothing, leaving in a hurry. After handling the issue, she walked alone down the street. When she saw the very first outfit she had ever designed, tears began to fall uncontrollably. Cdrama happened to pass by and caught sight of a familiar figure. She got off to look for him, but found nothing. When she returned home, her two younger sisters were already asleep on the couch, waiting for her. Her grandmother didn't ask where she had been all day. She only reminded her to follow proper procedures next time she took leave, instead of acting recklessly like a child. Noticing the bow she had drawn, her grandmother seemed to understand. It was her way of trying to put an end to everything. Sshe had once said that he felt like someone trapped in winter. But she didn't want to stay trapped. She wanted to get better as soon as possible. Yet no matter what she did or what she looked at, she kept thinking of him. She found the list he had left behind and thought that if she completed everything on it, she might finally be able to let go properly. So she went all over the city, doing every single thing on that list. But for some reason, everything felt dull. The things that once felt interesting when she did them with him now felt empty when she was alone. Her grandmother told her that opportunities slip away. If you can't hold on to them today, they'll be gone tomorrow. She suggested that she go find him. But Cdrama believed their relationship wasn't that close. He had already said he would leave, he had just done it a little earlier than expected. That was why she didn't want to get close to anyone. Do you regret it? Her grandmother asked. She already knew the answer. Do you regret it? I do. If she had known he would leave so soon, things might have been better. She admitted she regretted it, but after a pause, she said she didn't regret meeting him. Using the bow, she sealed away everything about him. Then suddenly, a reminder popped up on her phone, the full moon promise. At the same time, he had planned to cancel but then said he could go with her. She went to the restaurant alone. Meanwhile, her colleague, who had taken time off, left in a hurry. She picked up the scarf he had dropped and ran after him. He asked her to hold it for him. At that moment, it began to snow. In fact, he had sent her a message, saying he would return soon and would definitely be there on the day of the full moon. But airplane mode trapped that message forever in a failed to send notification. Overseas, Sun Woo-jae was attending meeting after meeting, persuading others and revising scripts until the project could finally continue. He was so busy he forgot to charge his phone, forgot the time itself. After eating, he contacted his grandfather. Meanwhile, Cdrama had unknowingly fallen asleep in the restaurant. When she left, she wondered how he had returned from the airport without even bringing his luggage. Only then did Sun Woo-jae realize he had left his luggage at the airport. He went alone to retrieve it. Not wanting to live with regret, Cdrama followed him to the airport. At last, Sun Woo-jae admitted his true feelings and stepped forward to embrace her. In the end, they were the same, afraid of regret and afraid of missing each other. And this relationship, which had started as a trial version, had quietly become something irreplaceable, something real. With that, the first part of the series comes to an end. Like, subscribe and drop a heart for part 2. See you later.